around us these days, don't we? Here we go. Okay, I see. We're there. We're heading in. Now I'm having weird connectivity from my phone. Hey, Liberty Wings, Lady Grace. Don Richardson, did you send that track to Richard Shepard? Sing to I Am, Lady Grace. Above first base. Hey, Liberty, good job. Let's see who else is joining in. Prayer people, Liberty people, touched by prayer people. Maine, good afternoon. Iceman, good afternoon. You know, yesterday we had, it was so interesting. I had people on and tweeting and sharing, and the views were surprisingly down, which is cool because you know what I feel like? The people who are, hey, good morning, Rose. Um, you can't get reception. Hey, I know what that's like. I feel like what I'm doing here is kind of by divine appointment. Those of you who relate with the idea of being healed from trauma, but also understanding that we've been nationally traumatized. And in order to, I believe, there's a lot of ways to approach healing from trauma. And if you've watched my scopes in the past, I've gone through different layers of healing and given instruction and taking people through healing experiences. And now I want to sort of pull up into the purpose behind how trauma works and what it's aimed at. And Dawn is new among us, but I've been talking about how we are not only just people who have experienced personal trauma, but we've been nationally traumatized. When you see a lot of violence, when you see violent images, when you see your history being torn down, when you see Twitter rolls back the numbers. That's really interesting. Um, well, that would be cool. Touched by, that would be really cool. I would love to be touched by prayer. Um, yeah, send it. Yeah, have a great time, Don. Don Richardson, right there, is the guy who produces Dream Farm Radio, which is on, at one point of 40 different public radio stations, and we just picked up the biggest station in Chicago, jazz station in Chicago, The Sting, it's called, to play our show, which is Synergy Jazz, fresh jazz sounds and mixtures of jazz and other types of components of music. And we produced 9 seasons of shows, goodness sakes, with some of the most remarkable and amazing jazz musicians from all over the world. And that's what I've been doing. Before I started doing any of this, I was producing Dream Farm Radio and performing regularly on it and staging concerts, creating albums, working with the jazz community because God said I needed to get over my fear, my stage fright. And so you never know where you'll wind up when you get free of your fear. And that's what I've been doing. So Don Richardson wound up engineering several of my albums, and he does video for me. And I will be releasing some more Presence Jazz videos. We have 4 more videos to release in a series of kind of behind the scenes workout sessions of worship with these jazz musicians. Um, and thanks, Don. And we recorded them and videotaped them to show just sort of us exploring worship from a jazz genre vein. And we will, I don't know if you're having a loading problem. I'm having a problem getting loaded these days. I don't know what it is. But at any event, hey, Teresa, Don Richardson of Midlife, say it again, I always mess it up, Midlife Recording. Midlife Crisis Recording. In any event, we do all kinds of creative work behind the scenes, and what I share with you here is just a small little dip into the things and the processes that, yeah, you DM me, that'll be great at Touched By. Um, the It's just a little dip into um, part of what's propelled me forward in the reality of how really we are called to live. I mean, really, seriously, free of fear. That's not just a euphemism. That's not just a hope. It's a way of life, and it can be learned. And so, mlcrecording.com. If you go there, you'll see even, I think I'm on your website, or dreamfarmradio.org, and you can get my free jazz radio show episodes of interviews and all kinds of jazz sounds, and I perform in each show. So anyway, thank you, Don, for always And Don's of a sort of slightly different tribe, so he puts up with us sometimes when we're talking about our things. But he's a great guy, super open-minded and helpful, and a great sound engineer. So anyway, that's my plug for Don Richardson of MLC Recording. So here we are with another canvas. Did you see this yesterday? How we went from the absolute black of of depths, pain, um, the unknowable, the sense of trauma, the darkness that can so often just overwhelm us. Dream Farm app, yes, you can get the Dream Farm app. That's true. Um, and honestly, we have some of the coolest sounding music out there. And if you're not totally a jazz person, what is neat about it is that I talk about what this music is about and how people engage with sounds that you might not be familiar with. But so we talked about the darkness and the depths of trauma and what we had experienced nationally. And then I began to show you the womb of God's heart, the womb of God's purpose, out of which you were created. And all the systems, we talked about yesterday how really for life to exist on planet Earth, the whole entire universe is very fine-tuned and specially tuned so that all the measurements and all the proportions and all the elements and all the ways that the laws of gravity and not just the law of gravity, but I'm just talking about universal laws and forces, how they all work together to create a universe that makes it possible for life to exist in one small, tiny place in the universe. The breath of God created this whole system and then created an earth right in the center of it, right in the middle of it. Just like your mom's whole body and everything in her, and your father's whole body and all the systems, all the complex systems that create a human being had to be in fully orbed maturity, at least to the point of reproduction, and all those things, so that your sperm and egg that created you could come together deep inside your mother's body. That all of this was created simply so you could be here. All of this was created simply so we could have a planet and a place to live. And so we're going to go bigger than that, though, because we're talking about personal trauma, but we're also talking about communal trauma. We're talking about global trauma. We're talking about how God expanded out in the universe from the tiny compression, less than the size of a golf ball. I just read the Big Bang. There's all the elements less than the size of a golf ball expanded out to create a whole universe. And if you read Genesis, I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, but I believe he created the lights and the sky and the universe before he actually honed in on our planet. But here we are. Here's that womb-like experience of what God is wanting to do, to create a purpose and a plan and an earth. Just like you're growing and you grew in your mama's body. You grew out of that and developed. What was happening in the universe? A creation was coming about. And the swarming animals and the trees and we could do a whole deal just on the different days of creation and the things that God set into motion out of his heart for you and for me. So when we talk about what it's like to be a traumatized person and a deeply hurt person, we have to start with a plan and a purpose, because problem with trauma and pain is, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger, this thing. It's just going to grow and expand, what I'm doing here. The problem with being deeply in pain or trauma is that it creates a feeling of chaos. It seems to reinforce that there's this deep aching pain that is so purposeless, your pain. We have in our family a member who was abused, And there are times as this member of our family heals that they ask the question, why? 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 Why did this happen to me? What does this mean? Does it mean anything? I'm not really seeing this whole thing as I can't stand back from it. But you see, trauma and chaos and upheaval makes us question, what was the point of that? What was the point of me being here? What was the point of me existing? Is it just for pain? It's a kind of egg-shaped, isn't it? I think I'm heading, but we could be egg-shaped for a while. Was the point of this whole thing just so I could live and I could hurt? Why did God allow? Some people say, why did God do it? Why did God do this thing? Where did this thing to me? Well, let's start there. You'll have to take my word for it if you don't already know this. But God only has good gifts to give. He is good. There's no abuse in him. There's no death in him. There's no sickness in him. There's no disease in him. But he created a system that allowed human beings, even from the beginning, to opt out of his goodness. And when that happened, began the process of consequences. People can opt out of his goodness and they can reproduce evil. I'm probably not in this series going to give you the most deep answers for the why of it all. I'm just going to help you reconnect with the why, not the why of your purpose. And then you'll see a pattern. You'll begin to see patterns. You'll begin to understand that there's a pattern. You see, we believe in a very personal evil. Look at that. It's kind of just evolving now. I don't like the word evolve. It's sort of developing. It's sort of forming. We believe in a God who's planted something in the universe. And we believe that there's a purpose in you, and there was a purpose in our planet. There's a purpose in our nation. Now, what I'm going to begin to teach you is that whenever there is a purpose, you're not the only one God's not the only one who's aware of it. There's an enemy, and he's aimed his darts of pain and trauma and fear directly at the very heart of what God planted in you. And what's interesting about the biblical view of it is that Satan knows what's hidden in people. Satan knows and understands what family lines carry. Satan knows and understands. He lived in heaven. He understands what the throne of God is like. And he also understands the principle that you have to kill it while it's little. If you look at the warfare in the Bible, you see some interesting principles. And you see how the enemy attacks family lines, and he attacks heritages, and he attacks purpose. He's more interested in your purpose than you are. If there's an enemy against your soul, and there is, and an enemy against the purposes of God in this planet and in our nation, if he's smart, he's not going to waste his energy on bringing mayhem without a strategy to it. And he has strategically been aiming the specific wounds that have formed and shaped you in order to keep you from ever fully manifesting the things that God has placed in you. He's been aiming his weapons against our planet to stop the strategic purposes for the earth. And he's been waging warfare against our nation to stop the strategic purposes of why America exists. And along the way, did some of you do your journaling? I asked you to do some journaling about what has really traumatized you, how old you were, what were the types of situations and people that you found yourself in on more than one occasion. And we're going to take a deep, deep dive look into all of those things. And we're going to try to get the small picture of what has shaped you and formed you as an individual, and what has been aimed against our nation from the very beginning. You see, this is what I've learned. I've learned, yeah, that hits you like zap, Lady Grace. Here's what I've learned. I've learned that Satan understands way more than we do about seeds, seed production, about planting, about what you plant, when you plant it, and how it grows and shapes families, nations, and situations. He understands way more than we do about what you carry. He sees it more clearly than you do, what you carry. And if you'll do an inventory, and we won't have as much time to do a big, huge, deep dive one, if you'll do an inventory of your life and the kinds of things that happen to you over and over and over again with the same kinds of people and the same kinds of messages, you'll discover that it was almost as if somebody had a plan to teach you something about never fulfilling your purpose. You'll discover there's a theme in all the things, all the particular wounds, especially the most traumatizing ones. And you'll discover that they all carried a message, a toxic message meant to destroy the very core of what you were created to do. There's a toxic, at least one or more toxic lies that were sown into you, probably when you were small, but then thematically coming out of that you have not even questioned. You've not even questioned them. They just flow out of you. Things that you have never even thought that you say about yourself. Oh, I'm just this. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm no good at that. Oh, I'm shy. Oh, I can't sing. Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm fat. Nobody loves me. And I'm not safe. And the interesting thing is some of the most deep, uh, impactful stories that you believed are the ones you don't even think about. They're just in the air. They're just in your assumed sense of who you are. But if you'll take time and see that while God is spinning something in you, creating something in us, creating something in the earth, in the universe, that he wants manifest to come to life, you'll see that the key and core traumas, whether they're the hidden traumas of what was never given to you, how you were literally emotionally starved and abandoned and left alone and unshepherded, very painful, very long lasting, whether it's the hidden traumas of what you were never given or the traumatic events of what you can remember. Hello, Dawn. You'll find that there's a theme. Even if you are not a particularly upset, traumatized kind of person who doesn't have a bunch of issues, you'll find you have a theme, and this is just showing up gray. I'd like it to be more black, but it's showing that while God has created a big thing that he wants to express through you, that the specific memories, and I think some of you relate to this, and even my friend there, you were sharing some things with me when we were in the studio together about key experiences that kind of disappointments, things that shaped you as a guy, you know? Um, these were meant and target and focused to your purpose, to muddy the waters so you would never completely come to life and fulfill not just what your nice life looks like, but what God is wanting to do and God is wanting to release. You see, we believe in a God who has the capacity for intimate personal relationship with every single being on the whole earth, the billions and billions of beings. And there is a spot missing in God's heart when even one of them is not intimately connected to Him. And there is a piece of His puzzle that is missing when we are not able to bring forth the the reality of what flows out of that intimacy and that wholeness. And there are things that our nation needs. There are things that the world needs, missing pieces of that. And Satan's plan has always been kill it while it's little. Kill it while it's little. Let's sow in some dark, painful experiences. And let's let those seeds multiply and grow up. And let's convince people uh, to avoid doing the very thing they were created to do. So say you have a lot of sexual or emotional abuse in your life. There's probably a capacity that God put in you for connection, for marriage, for healthy sexuality, to bring forth beautiful children into the world, for and all that happens when you see when God puts people together in the earth, it creates this chain reaction. So it's important who you marry. It's important who you connect with. It's important who you have healed relationships with. It's important who you work out your shit with. It matters. And so God wants us to develop our capacity for connection, our capacity for love, our capacity to give and have intimacy with Him and with others. And it's catalytic, it's miraculous catalytic energy when people are fully coming to life and connecting with others and calling others to life. And when Satan aims to destroy that in you, he's destroying something you were created to do and to be and to have and to manifest. It's not pointless, it's strategic. And he does it with us. He does it with our families. He does it with our communities. And he does it with our nation. And I'm telling you this because if you can grasp that there is a purpose in your pain, and then we can begin to receive the healing, and we can begin to take back what the enemy deeply damaged in us. And we can say, no, you're not going to have that. I'm not going to live the rest of my life in anxiety and PTSD. I'm just not. I'm going to get healed and I'm going to learn to connect with the earth. When you're traumatized and afraid, do you connect with the earth? Do you walk in the woods? Do you swim in the ocean? Do you let the wind caress you? Or do you numb out and run away and hide in addiction, terror? When you're traumatized, do you come close to other people? Do you share your heart? Do you create and move from that place with fresh new ideas? Or do you hold back and hide and live in some other part of your personality where you feel more control? When you're traumatized, do you bring life and healing into your families and into your marriage? Or do you shut down and attack and hide? When a nation is traumatized, does it bring healing effectively to the rest of the world? When a nation is the target of a worldwide pandemic to destroy us, so we will not fully become the land of the free and the home of the brave, are we in full capacity to bring life to the nations of the world that are this close to succumbing to communism, to tyranny, to everything from Sharia law to child trafficking to economic despondency and famine. No, when America's traumatized, and when the hearts and the people in America are traumatized and in pain and in confusion, we do not bring our purpose, our national purpose to the earth. We don't. But the very fact, and this is what I want to lead you with, the very fact that Satan has spent so much time aiming at us and distorting us and attacking us and blemishing us and scarring us with these painful experiences that happen over and over and over again. My friend, that is to me the best evidence of your purpose and my purpose and the purpose of our nation that I have to bring to you. Because fear is personal, trauma is personal, pain is personal, and it's aimed personally to stop something that's even more amazing, more powerful. And that is what is birthed from the heart of God. So I want you to get a vision for how important it is that you are free. I mean, really free. I mean, free to the core. I mean, really alive. I mean, really able to connect with yourself, your body, your earth, your work, your friendships, your marriage, even to connect with your own grief over how bad it all went, how much time you wasted. Your grief can propel you into healing. Your regret can so inform your process, can so deeply inform your process that you will develop a kind of resilience and determination that you will never let yourself leave this earth without fully singing the song you were meant to sing. The guy, oh my gosh, Zig Ziglar said, most people die with the song still inside them. And when I heard that as a young mother and contemplated the pain and trauma of my own mom, who was an opera singer with an absolutely heavenly voice, and how much of the song she carried, she died with, and how that internalized song turned inward created, I think it killed her. I think it literally killed my mother physically to have such a glorious song she was created to sing and to have so much of it stuffed inside of her. And I determined, and many times, but that was a day when I heard Zig Ziglar say, most people die with the song still inside them. And I determined at that point, and I redetermined again and again, that I would not do that. And whatever it cost me, and wherever I needed to go, whatever I needed to deal with, whoever I needed to encounter, whatever I needed to face, however many big girl panties I had to put on, even though I soiled them along the way, that I would not die with the song inside me. You have a song. You have a purpose. You have a voice. Even, my friend, if it's just, and this is the deepest one of all, the power, the capacity, the ability to love. I mean, love. Love. You must go for that purpose. No matter what has marred it, no matter what relationships have continually swirled around you to damage it, no matter the ways you've participated in that, let your grief and your regret become your determination and your resilience, because God is not finished with you yet. And anything's possible. All things are possible. All right? So we're going to continue this. We're going to keep working and sharing. I advise you to do your journaling. Make a list from age in your age list. What significant situations in your life taught you to be afraid, taught you to live in trauma, taught you to give up? Make a list. begin to see the patterns. And we will carry on Monday. In the meantime, that sounds kind of scary. A little journaling. Can you do that? Do something that scares you.